So like I said, when you're looking from the buyer's point of view, then you, the supplier, need to match what the buyer is wanting, i.e., like as if to say you was to apply for a position as a receptionist, for example, you would then make sure that your CV matches the receptionist position with regards to your qualifications and experience, so it matches that CV. For example, you're not going to put cleaner, that you was a cleaner, when it's got nothing really relevant to do with that, unless the job does ask for a complete history from when you left school with no gaps. Then you've got to explain what it is that you've done, for example. Now, I spoke earlier about the rates. Come April 2025, that the rates are £12.21 per hour, for example, for national minimum wage, for example. But then you've also got to think about the national insurance cost, which is the 15% starting in April 2025, which would then bring it to, for example, £12.81. Then you've got to think about what other costs, i.e. pension, which is 3%. That needs to be at, depending on what the threshold is of the candidate, for example, and the age, that makes a big difference. Then you put the 3% on top. Now, if you're looking at getting apprentices is £7.55 per hour, for example. But I also did mention that you can get virtual assistants ranging from £3.33 per hour up to 10, 15, £20 an hour, depending really on what the position is and what you wanting them to do, for example. Now, going into the scenario of and I'm just going to get this up here, scenario of the buyer. Go to my drive. I'm going to get that up first. And I'll just share my screen. Excellent. So this is a template here that you can see, whereby it is the scenario where you're role playing from a buyer's perspective. They're looking for an agency like yourselves, for example, or a care business like yourselves. So what you need to look at is looking at things from their perspective, what it is that they need from you. And usually they will have things like a PowerPoint presentation, what is happening in their community and what the critical need is and what the population is, for example, and what type of organization that they're looking for and what the stats are, the data, the population of elderly, the population of children. It really depends on the type of contract that you're looking to apply for. And the reason why, just going back onto what I just spoke about, you've got to look at damage limitations. You've also got to look at when April 2025 comes, that you're not left with any surprises, that you know what your costing is going to be, so that when you are doing things like this contract wise, you know that there's going to be no surprises and that there's no losses, for example. So that's why it's important to do the first things first, and then you can start looking at these scenarios from the buyer's perspective, so that you know what price that you're going to charge for your services. Sometimes the buyers will let you know what their pricing is, what they're looking for, but most of the time they don't either. So then you've got to work that out of what the costing is going to be, what your price is going to be as well. And these prices can start from low to high, depending on what the qualifications are that you have of the staff members. So sometimes if you've got staff members that are really high experienced, then you can justify charging a higher price, if that makes sense as well to you. So let's look at this document here. The background is the government, and they've launched an initiative to improve digital literacy amongst senior citizens, aiming to reduce digital divide and enable better access to online services. Now, why do you think that they want to do this? They want to do this so that they can do online monitoring with patients, service users. There could be a consultant, a doctor that wants to be able to communicate with patients and service users online. So they don't want the service user to be struggling to try and get online. It's going to make their consultation, for example, very difficult if the person doesn't know how to get online, or if they've got online, they don't know how to navigate properly to do a proper consultation with the patient or the service user, for example. So this is why this initiative is happening, for example. So the buyer's perspective here is that the Department for Digital, Culture, Media and Sports, for example, they're responsible for commissioning an organization to design and deliver the initiative. They're also looking for proposals that offer innovative, user-friendly and accessible solutions to educate senior citizens in digital skills, because we all know that even ourselves as a younger person, that we can struggle with getting online, knowing how to upload a document or to download a document, to look at a document. So a doctor, for example, or a consultant or a nurse practitioner could be, showing results from a scan that the person has had, and then that person's not able to see it properly because they don't have the correct knowledge, for example. So this contract could be to help with senior citizens to bridge the gap so that they're able to look at what the results are, or maybe to discuss the results with the patient and the consultant, for example. And this just helps them, even with making appointments, that the service user or the patient is able to make the appointment by going online, but also to access their own medical records, for example. Okay, so this is just giving you an example what the buyer is looking for. They're looking for value for money. They want to ensure that the proposals provide a detailed budget that offers value for money and has a clear return on investment, for example, because they will be charging as well, because it's not a free service. They have to charge the government, for example, for providing this service. So maybe an organization is providing an app or a user-friendly dashboard, for example, and they're charging the government, but also the government is charging the government, but also the consultant, the doctor, is also charging the government to provide this type of service every time that a service user or a patient is online with them. They charge. It will be cheaper than the service user going into their doctor's surgery. It's a lot cheaper to do it online. And this is the digital health that is happening today. And we all know that the government is wanting, UK, but worldwide as well, that they're wanting to really push this digital technology so that it's because they know it's going to be cheaper than the manpower, if that makes sense to you. Okay, so this is why all these things are being introduced. So when you're looking at contracting with an organization, you need to look at what their scenario is. What is their perspective? Why do they want to use your organization, and what it is that you can do to say, I'm going to provide this situation? It's like a CV, isn't it? Got to make sure that the staff members, the workers, for example, can meet this contract on all levels, because there's no room for complacency. It has to be correct. Okay, so activity step. So what you can look at is the role. So with the proposal, developing a pitch and evaluation panel, preparing the assessment criteria. So you as an organization need to also provide a presentation, just like how they provide a presentation to you about what they're looking for. You're going to mirror and provide a presentation that is going to show that you are that it's a no-brainer, that you are the only logical choice for them to use you by you matching what it is that they want from you. So it's always good to practice doing a presentation, writing one out. I'm going to send you this document, by the way, so that you can then practice as well, so that you're learning, for example.
Okay.
Okay, so what you need to do is look at the decision-making processes that the buyers do and learn how to anticipate and address the potential questions and concerns that the evaluation may have. So they're going to score you on how you pitched to them, what your presentation was like, what your pricing is like, what your questions, the answers to the questions are like, what is your grounds, your qualifications, your staff members' qualifications, because they want to minimize risk. And obviously, insurance is important, as well as your business plan, as well as your criteria. All of these things matter to the buyer. So if you do have any questions, you can always type it in the chat so that I can read it out as well.
Yeah. The only thing I wanted to say is, do we have a scenario for role supplier? It's just to see if this is the requirement or the perspective from the buyer. Obviously, we as a supplier, what is the ideal kind of response?
Yeah,
Almost in a
so
scenario, yeah.
I'm going to pull that up next, but I just wanted to explain to you about the buyer's
Mm,
side, where they're coming from.
mm.
Okay, let me just go to my drive here. I've got quite a lot of scenarios, to tell you the truth. So I think this is more of a week thing, if you know what I mean. So
Hmm.
let's look at um, scenario, hands-on activity. And this is about local healthcare trust is seeking proposals for a new initiative aimed at reducing patient readmission rates within 30 days of discharge. The trust is particularly interested in innovative approaches that utilize community health resources, including home care services and telehealth options. So, contract details. The contract will be awarded to an organization that can demonstrate cost-effective, scalable solutions that can be implemented across multiple healthcare settings. The successful proposal must show evidence of previous success of similar projects. They want you to outline a clear plan to collaborate with existing healthcare services and also provide a robust framework for measuring the outcomes. So the task here is that you will need to work as a group with developing a proposal to the healthcare trust needs. So let's look at the objectives here. So you want to propose a unique solution that leverages community health resources to reduce readmission rates. It needs to be cost effective. So demonstrate how the solution to cost effective and provides a high return on investment for the healthcare trust. Scalability. Explain how the solution can scale across different healthcare settings within the trust. What evidence of success? They want you to provide evidence from any past projects that show effectiveness of this approach. So, for example, there's quite a few things out there at the moment that you can show from case studies that has worked well in this particular scenario. And this is going to be training for another day, just to let you know, because I can't just go into this straight away. I like to break things down, for example. So, collaboration plan. You'll need to outline a plan for how your organization will collaborate with existing healthcare services. So think of how you're going to collaborate. One example is that you will meet with integrated care boards, for example. You will meet with communities, for example. You will meet with other healthcare providers. So this is how you're looking at collaborating. GP surgeries. The list really is endless. There's lots of community initiatives, recovery teams. It all depends on the age group concerned, whether it's mental health or whether it's elderly services. Then you would approach those organizations that you would collaborate with. You would collaborate with the service users, the patients, the family members, for example. Then it goes here into measurement of the framework. So develop a framework for measuring the outcomes of the project, including key performance indicators. This is where you're communicating with various bodies, as well as the patients, as well as service users, to ensure that things are being delivered as you said that they would be delivered, and what the outcomes have been. You know, were they happy with the service, for example, or was there something that needed to have been done that may have been missed? Because sometimes there will be gaps. We're not robots, we're not perfect, there will be gaps. So then this is about communication and also about collaboration as well. So some activity steps that you can do here is research and plan. So do a brief research based on the scenario and plans. And I'm going to send this to you both, for example, for you to get together. And I'm going to work with you on this as well. You want to create a draft of a proposal that is addressing the objectives from the buyer, focusing on customizing the content to the healthcare trust needs, for example. do your presentation based around each proposal, section, age group, and this is where you'll be working together. You want to do a refinement using the feedback from the groups that you've defined, for example, and the proposals need to implement the changes to better tailor the needs of the contract's details. So the outcome is, by the end of the activities, participants will have practical experience in adapting a proposal to fit a specific contract requirement. And they will also have learned how to incorporate feedback into their proposal development process effectively, because it's important to have feedback, and then you will let the buyer know what the feedback was, that you did research in the community. For example, you could say that you approached a community centre for the elderly or a specific group of individuals that use the service, and you spoke to them, asked them what they feel was lacking and what they need and what they feel that they're getting from the collaboration from the government organizations. What is it that they feel that they're getting or lacking? And then, did that meet that need? Because that presentation that the buyer has provided you with, does it really match up to what the community wants? Do you understand what I mean here? So this is where you would then stand out, because you would show evidence that you do know what the community needs. And you can also, I won't say challenge, but you can also mention that, you know, you looked at part B section where it talked about that the community, the needs were more high for this particular person. It could be dementia needs, or it could be learning disability needs, or it could be mental health. The needs were more higher in that location, not as it was said by the buyer. This could be due to times have changed within a 6-month period, for example. Yeah, there could have been more people had crossed over elderly wise to become a certain group. So then that then changed the presentation that the buyer provided you with. I hope that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you scenario A and I'm going to send you scenario B. And what I'm going to also do is I'm going to work with you on this. We're going to look at the presentation from the scenarios, because we've still got quite a few to go through. Okay, there's different types of roles, for example. There's questionnaires as well. Just go back to one of these roles here. I actually have 4 scenarios, so maybe it's not been uploaded here, but I'll send them to you. And then what we'll do is we can, let me just stop recording. So I hope that that was a good example of a scenario with the role playing from the buyer's perspective, but also from the supplier's perspective as well.